So Java is the largest island in Indonesia. Indonesia is an archipelago nation of thousands and thousands of islands. The nation is, I think, the fourth most populous in the world, just behind the United States. So about 300 million people live in Indonesia as a whole, and the majority of them live on the island of Java. What's interesting about Indonesia as a place is this incredible, sort of this richly layered cultural heritage that the place has.
But when the Hindu religion came, the Upanishads and all the Hindu myths and stories were incorporated into gamelan style and storytelling, and they're still there.
Dances, these women dance to a gamelan, just like the one we have, which is in the court in the city of Yogyakarta, also in Surakarta, and also found in other places.
So when people think about Indonesian music, inevitably the first thing that comes to mind is the gamelan orchestra.
So gamelan consists of different instruments, like gamelan music, and mostly the instrument itself mostly built from a piece of metal. Like all is metal. It's different from other the regular instruments that usually what wood, strings. We don't have strings. We have woods, but metals on wood. So we basically knocking on each of the metal woods, and it will because of the different size and different build, it can give you a different sound. So from this different sound, you can make notes, and we can, if you combine all this kind of sound, you can get a different musics.
There are a couple of different regional styles of gamelan music that come from different parts of Indonesia.
Ludwig would be like hip-hop or rap, and classical gamelan would be more like Richard Strauss or maybe John Cage or somebody like that.
So you have a regional style that's located in Bali. There's a Sundanese style that comes from that region. The gamelan that we have here at UNC is Central Javanese gamelan, and so that is another particular regional variation. Oftentimes the instruments are similar to one another, gongs and sort of metal cast xylophone type instruments made out of bronze or iron, but what's going to change from region to region will be the way that the players interact with the instruments.
As I understand it, Gamelania Saraswati was built or produced or created in a little town in central Java in about 1980, which would make it 30-some years old.
It traveled with a shadow puppeteer for about 10 years, and then James Peacock, who's now an emeritus faculty member in the anthropology department, someone who had done a lot of groundbreaking work on Java in the 1960s and 1970s, was able to, through some of his connections in Java, arrange for the gamelan to come to UNC.
It was loaded in the bows of a ship and transported in some 3-month ocean voyage, and ultimately arrived in Chapel Hill in about December of 2000.
So in 2000, December of 2000, the gamelan arrived wrapped in Indonesian newspapers and cigarette boxes and everything else, and pretty much all of the bronze was totally blackened, and so it had to be polished and reconstituted. And it's been in Chapel Hill now for about 15 years, primarily housed in the music department.
I think Dr. Peacock thought that the school here needed a gamelan.
It's a beautiful instrument, which is not widely known. And we've had an expert, namely Dr. Weiss, here. So it seemed she was teaching about the gamelan, and so to have one is and it wasn't very expensive either.
Since January 2002, we've been an ongoing presence in the campus community, holding practices once a week at various locations around town and campus, and giving performances, at least one every spring and one every fall, usually interspersed with a couple other special ones, ever since. My first impression occurred in the fall of 1970 when the Wesleyan Gamelan played at a welcome to Wesleyan ceremony for freshmen. And I was immediately blown away by how exciting and mysterious the whole thing was. And I've stayed the same for the last so many years.
I was an undergraduate music major, and in the first semester of my degree program, we had to take a sort of introduction type course that covered different musics of the world, as well as a brief survey of Western classical music. And that was when I first heard gamelan music and was very interested in it.
When I was in elementary school, I joined an ensemble, gamelan ensemble, for maybe like 3 years. And yeah, we trained, we practiced, and we went for a competition because yeah, there's a competition between school for gamelan ensemble. But after elementary, I didn't do that until now.
When you listen to it, I think there's a certain intricacy of construction that you hear right away. You hear the ways that the instruments are speaking to one another and tightly interlocking with one another, the ways in which they're sort of riffing and elaborating on a lot of the same musical materials, and that lends it lends itself to, I think, being read in this very you see it as this beautifully constructed object when you first encounter it.
It's probably closer to like an opera kind of music because it's slow. There's no high beat. I mean, there is high upbeat, but up-tempo music, but it's not like a techno music or rock music. Everything is always calm and, you know, like opera kind of music. I cannot explain that.
We probably played at over 20 venues in our 40 concerts or so. I would guess that there have been 250 to 300 players over the 13 years that have passed through the gamelan.
I joined this ensemble mostly to reminds me of the gamelan music again and help the ensemble here to perform.
The gamelan has been an ensemble traditionally that's been involved in a lot of community outreach. The gamelan, even before I took over as director, when I was just a player, was always an ensemble that was interested in, you know, going out to elementary schools and bringing the music to people, or being out in the community at events and those sorts of things.
It's good for a young to learn about the traditional music before they're just learning about the pop culture music.
Practicing the gamelan week to week when Sarah was here with her little son Sam, we instantly bonded. He was about 5 years old at the time, and he would come over to my gong ensemble stand, which is a concrete little part of the gamelan, which was sort of hidden away. And he would come over and play with me, both gamelan and non-gamelan types of things.
It was fun to learn with the group, with the team, the ensemble team. It's I help them learn how to sing in Japanese. So we're not just playing music, but also singing and helping my friends to understand the lyrics.
To me, being able to engage in music from another culture by playing in a gamelan ensemble gives people an opportunity to get a sort of richly textured view of that other culture, and to encounter it in the most generative possible context.
First of all, I enjoy the music. Second of all, I enjoy the idea of having a group working towards goals. And I enjoy the relationships you can develop being part of a musical group that has a continuity.
It's a music that you can really use if you want to relax. I think it's a good way to understand how Japanese people think, and if you're learning it deeply, then I think you can understand how Japanese work things and everything, because it's again, there's a lot of meanings in our music, so by learning the music it helps understand a Japanese way of thinking. I hope it's gonna expand in the futures, and not just on campus, but outside campus.